Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Ask the Author, the ITF's format to give you in a snapshot everything that we have published in a recent report. And the report we're talking about today is the ITF Road Safety Annual Report. This is a publication we publish every year, and it contains the latest data from the IRTAD Road Safety Database, which is special because it contains data that is furnished to us by the member countries, and that we validate, and that is based on agreed standards. So that makes this data particularly valuable. And as we know, data is important to develop policies and to implement policies. And so this is one of the products we're really, really proud of. It's great to have you here, all of you. With me is Véronique Feypell, who's the lead for road safety at ITF, and she shepherds this report every year for many years. Thank you very much, Vero, for all this hard work. You know, this collecting data is like herding fleas. But we're very proud of this, and road safety is very high on the priority list of ITF. In fact, our ministers, the ministers of the 69 member countries last year adopted a recommendation on comprehensive road safety policies, which gives a sort of global framework for what we're trying to underpin with this data to help policymakers take the right decisions. So Vero will take us through the latest data, which are some of 2025, some all of 2024. This will take 10 minutes, and after that, it's over to you to ask questions. Please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen for this, not the chat. Use the Q&A, that way I can see the questions, and we'll have hopefully a very fruitful and focused discussion. If, of course, you find you still have questions afterwards, you can always contact us, and we're happy to engage with you in the dialogue on this issue in particular. So with no further ado, as they say, I'll hand over to Vero to take us through her presentation on the data for 2024 and 25 road safety. Thank you, Vero.
Thank you so much, Michael, for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my big pleasure to present to you today the Road Safety Annual Report 2025. This report was prepared by the ITF IRTAD Group on international traffic safety data. And I see that many of our members are online today. So hello, everyone, and thank you so much for having contributed to the preparation of this very important report. So in this report, you will find the following information. We have preliminary road death data for the first half of 2025. We have detailed data on traffic and safety data for 2024. We have information on progress towards the 2030 target of the second UN Decade of Action for Road Safety. Then we review the development of road safety between 2014 and 2024. We have a number of comparative tables on speed limits, seatbelt and helmet wearing rates, blood alcohol content. We also have a summary of national road safety strategies. A big novelty this year is the analysis of collision matrices, and we also have complementary reports from 40 countries. So I will go now briefly through some of the main conclusions of our report. First, we gathered road death data for the first half of 2025, and based on preliminary data from 31 countries, we have some encouraging progress. On average, for these countries, there was a 5% reduction in the number of road deaths compared to the first half of 2024. And 18 countries recorded a decline in the number of road deaths. And what we also noticed is that there was an 8% decline in road deaths in the United States, which of course had a strong influence on the overall decrease. So the report presents comprehensive data for the year 2024. I will now focus just on some of them. So to analyze recent trends, we compare the number of road deaths in 2024 with the number of road deaths in 2023. And what we can see is that road deaths decreased in 25 countries with an average reduction of 2.8%. Oops, there was a decrease of more than 20% in Luxembourg, Lithuania, and Norway. Oops. Then, regarding the mortality rate in 2024, which is a useful indicator from a health perspective. So this is the number of road deaths per 100,000 population. So among the 35 countries with available data, the mortality rate ranged from 1.6 in Norway to 15.4 in Colombia. And the result in Norway is really remarkable, as this is the 10 consecutive years where Iceland has the lowest mortality rate among IRTAD countries. There are big differences between our member countries. So we had 7 countries with a mortality rate below 3: Norway, Sweden, United Kingdom, Denmark, Japan, Luxembourg, and Switzerland. The majority of our countries had a mortality rate between 3 and 4, so this concerns 24 countries. And finally, we have 3 countries with a mortality rate above 10: the United States, Costa Rica, and Colombia. But I must stress that our member countries are mainly among the best performing countries in the world. So we are aware that there are countries in the world with much higher mortality rates. So this graph shows how our member countries are progressing toward the UN road safety target. As you know, the UN proclaimed in 2021 the second decade of action for road safety, with the aim of reducing by 50% the number of road deaths by 2030. So we took as a baseline the average for 2017-19. As you remember, both the year 2020 and 2021 were severely impacted by the COVID pandemic. And we had, as a consequence, a very low number of road deaths in both 2020 and 2021. So to halve road deaths, the number of road deaths, a reduction of 24% should have been reached in 2024. And what we can see is that only 7 countries are on track: Belgium, Finland, Korea, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Poland, and Slovenia, which all had a reduction of more than 24% in the number of road deaths. But we see that many, many countries are still significantly behind the target. So this slide illustrates the evolution in the number of road deaths in all our member countries between 2014 and 2024. So globally, for all the 35 countries, the number of road deaths increased by 1.5% since 2014. And you can see in this graph that the strong impact of COVID-19 in 2020 especially, which was followed by an increase in road deaths. And since 2022, we see again a decreasing trend, which we hope will continue in the following years. So this is the same graph, but we excluded the US because, as the most populous countries, data from the United States always have a strong impact on our global average. So here you can see that if we exclude data from the US, the number of road deaths fell by 11.8% over the past decade, and we can still see the impact of COVID-19. So now when we look at the evolution in the past decade by country, the number of road deaths decreased in 24 out of the 35 countries with available data. And we had the largest reduction in Lithuania, Luxembourg, and Korea. However, road deaths increased in 10 countries, with an increase of more than 20% in the United States, Colombia, and Israel. So this slide illustrates the evolution of road deaths per road user category across the 29 countries with consistent data throughout this period. So against an overall reduction of 13.8% for these 29 countries, we can see on this graph that the number of road deaths decreased for all road users except users of power two-wheelers. And this increase is primarily due to the explosion in the number of motorcyclist deaths in Latin America. In Colombia, as an example, the number of motorcyclist fatalities increased by more than 70% from 2,834 in 2014 to more than 5,000 deaths in 2024. It is an excellent news to see that the number of pedestrian fatalities has decreased by nearly 29%. And 3 countries recorded a reduction of more than 60% in the number of pedestrian fatalities: Norway, Lithuania, and Poland. Across the 29 countries, cyclist deaths decreased by 16%, but here again, trends varied very much across countries. Cyclist fatalities fell in 20 countries, but it increased in 8 countries, and sometimes it increased by more than 40%. Now, a big novelty in the IRTAD 2025 report is the analysis of collision matrices. And I should like to thank Claire Bazerque from CEREMA in France, who is the author of this section of the report. So this work was inspired by the work of the European Commission, which started to publish collision matrices for its member countries in 2021. So within the IRTAD Group, we tried to extend this initiative and collect data from non-EU countries as well. So what is a collision matrix? It is a tool to visualize the distribution of road deaths for each road transport mode in connection with other modes. As an example, in this table, you can see that the yellow cell here contained cyclists killed in a crash where the main opponent is a car. And here you can see that the red cell contains car occupant killed in a crash where no other traffic unit is involved, what we commonly call a single vehicle crash. And what we did for this report is we created a cumulative collision matrix, so which represents the aggregate data from 30 countries. You can find separate collision matrices in the report, but just for our first analysis, we just wanted to have an overall review of what is happening. So you can see that each cell is colored according to its share of total fatalities, from gray for the less frequent collisions to red for the most frequent collisions. And the darker orange and red cell depict the most frequent types of collisions. So what we learned from this collision matrix is that fatalities from single vehicle crashes account for almost 1/3 of total fatalities. And when you look at the dark red and dark orange cells, this concerns single vehicle crashes for cars and single vehicle crashes for motorcyclists. So just this simple matrix gives us some information on the importance of single vehicle crashes and can shed light on where future interventions should be taken. And this collision matrix is also very useful to better understand data and to work on data harmonization between countries. Because when we look at the collision matrices from different countries, we see that sometimes some crash configuration are really underreported. So this might be a signal that some further data investigation should be made. So this report is completed by country chapters, the road safety country profiles, which we are regularly updated on our website. And you can find in these country profiles detailed analysis for road safety between 2014 and 2024, as well as a description of national road safety strategies and the most recent road safety measures. And if you are interested in road safety data, then I invite you to come to the 8th IRTAD International Conference, which will take place in Athens on the 15th and 17th of April. We will have more than 130 presentations on topics such as new data sources, road safety data collection and AI, impact of road safety measures. So you are very, very much welcome to come. And as you can see, there is an early bird registration until the 15th of March. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'm happy to respond to any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Véronique. This is really, really interesting. And I think we'll talk a little bit about the matrices. That's really something I personally adore. And it tells you so much. We have a few questions coming in. Now is the moment. We have another 13 minutes, if I see that correctly. So keep your questions short, keep it succinct, and Vero will try her best to answer. I always like to take the privilege as the moderator to ask the first question, and I'll do that just very quickly. You mentioned, Vero, that we're in the decade of action for road safety, the UN decade. It's already the second decade. And the ambition is still 50%, and you're telling us that sort of we should have been at 24% reduction 2 years ago. We're not. Is this still realistic, and what would need to happen for that to happen?
Thank you, Michael. Well, some countries are on track, and I think it's Luxembourg, Lithuania, and we have 7 countries on track. So yes, it is possible. And what is very impressive in the case of Norway is that Norway, despite being one of the best performing countries, it still continues to decrease the number of road deaths. So yes, improvement is possible, but this requires to have a strong strategy in place based on the safe system approach. This requires to have strong political awareness and a very clear road safety action plan.
Thank you. I have 2 questions here from participant Evaristos Irandu. I'll try to put them together because they're both about why a country that has relatively or very good active transport system, an organized transport system, still has so many road deaths. Colombia has this high number of motorcycle deaths that you mentioned. The Netherlands, Evaristos says, also has a surprisingly high number of deaths when Amsterdam has a perfect public transport system. Is there something that kind of gap between what happens in a country and what happens in a big city?
Thank you for your question. It's true that the Netherlands recently has seen an increase in the number of road deaths. It used to be one of the best performing countries, and now it's a little bit behind the traditional good performing countries. And in the Netherlands, they are really struggling with cycling safety. And recently, in the past 2-3 years, they are struggling with the emergence of fat and big bikes. This is electric bikes, which can go very, very fast. So this is clearly a major issue in the Netherlands, including the fact that with the aging of the population, you have many older citizens riding on e-bikes, and in some cases, this can create an unsafety situation. Regarding motorcycling safety in Colombia, it is true that Bogota has made significant effort to improve road safety in the city. There has been a cycling plan, a pedestrian plan, and many things are being done to improve the safety of motorcyclists. But at the country level, the figures are not good. It is, of course, important to be aware that in Colombia, motorcycle is often the main mean of transportation. And I think that more than 50% of fatalities in Colombia are motorcyclists. It is a cheap and very efficient mode of transportation in areas where public transport is not widely available. So yes, there is a big motorcycling safety issues in this country, as in other countries in Latin America.
Thanks. Just an information question, as not everyone here may be au fait with definitions. Are electric bikes that you mentioned part of the powered two-wheelers, or is that a separate category?
No, in the IRTAD database, we have now a new category under bicycle. So we make the distinction between pedal bicycle and electric bicycles.
Yeah, thank you. Number of questions come in about the mattresses, unsurprisingly, and the first one comes from an anonymous attendee, and he or she asks, the collision mattresses are a great addition. Thank you, I think so too. Well done. It would be great to extend this to serious injuries in the future. Do you intend to do this?
Well, at country level, it can be done, and it can be meaningful. In the IRTAD Group, we are very cautious in trying to compare and aggregate data on serious injury data. We are still struggling in collecting harmonized data that are fully comparable. So for this kind of work, we prefer not to aggregate data on serious injury. But definitely, we will continue working with the collision matrix. And when we do it for an individual countries, yes, it will make sense when data are available to have both killed and serious injury in the collision matrix.
A related question to this is about the source material, the sources for the collision matrices. Are these available? Can they be looked up, or comes this from countries?
Yes, this comes from countries. We have within the IRTAD Group, we have our data provider, and these collision matrices come from the national road safety databases of countries. Not all countries are able to develop yet these collision matrices, but we will try to work with them to try so that all countries are able to develop this kind of tool in the future.
Yeah. Another question on the matrices comes from Matthew Ramirez, and the question is whether there's a way to see how this matrix changes by region. We know mopeds are not regulated or coded in the LAC countries, and those are not counted for. Is there a regional approach to this?
So in the report, you will see that we included the matrices for individual countries. So you will be able to see some of the differences. We will gradually have an analysis of the matrix in the individual country chapter, but for this first edition of collision matrix analysis, we didn't go that far into the analysis.
And here's another question on the matrices from Lucia Penisi from Italy, I would think. Does the matrix consider all fatal accidents, or only those for which the statistics clearly state which vehicle was involved?
In principle, yes, in the matrix, you have all fatal crashes, and you can check it that at the end of each row, you have the total number of fatalities for one user category.
But an accident could involve a motorcycle, a car, or a pedestrian.
Yes, when we have a collision with more than two traffic units, we take the main opponent, which is the heaviest vehicle. So if a pedestrian is involved in a crash where there is a pedestrian, a motorcycle, and a truck, it will be recorded under the pedestrian truck cell.
Okay, thank you. You mentioned serious, or someone mentioned in their question, serious injuries, and the data that you presented here was fatality data. Is there an intention to also include serious injuries, and why hasn't that already happened?
Well, serious injury is very, very important in the safe system approach. The aim is really to prevent all fatal and serious injury crashes. But we are struggling in having comparable data on serious injury, despite the fact that we agreed 10 or 15 years ago to have a common definition for a serious injury, which is based on a medical diagnosis and the maximum abbreviated injury score. But what we see today is that even in good performing countries, it is not always easy to collect this data. This requires close coordination between health and police data. And even when we have this data, it seems that they are not yet fully comparable between countries. So we publish serious injury data in the individual country chapters, but at this stage, we prefer not to make comparative table on this type of data.
We have 3 minutes, 4 minutes maybe, if we have good questions. So here's your last opportunity to quiz our expert, Véronique. While you're typing, I will ask one question which is on my mind, namely, you mentioned the metrics that you showed is a cumulative one. Do you have the intention to do that also on a country level, and what could one learn from those?
Yes, well, actually, in the report, we just included the individual matrices for 30 countries, but we didn't analyze them. But just having them showed us that in some countries, you will see that there are some empty cells, for example, for single vehicle bicycle crash. In some countries, like the Netherlands, this will be orange or a cell which will be highly colored. So what we realized when we developed this collision matrix is that in some countries, when there is no motor vehicle involved, like a cyclist who is falling himself or herself, these crashes are not included in statistics. So this is quite interesting because now we have more and more active mobility, pedestrian, cycling, and new mobility devices. So there is some work to be done regarding harmonization of road safety data to make sure that all countries also include into their database collision when there is no motor vehicle involved.
So thank you for that. Some of you used the chat to pose their questions, which I have not immediately spotted them, I'm afraid. So I'll have to skip some of those, but I want to ask one last question to Véronique, which goes in the same direction as this about vulnerable road users, more cyclists, more people who are actually exposed to heavier vehicles. Have you, and this is not specifically, I think, about the report, but a general question, in the light of the increase of vulnerable road users, is there an educational gap concerning these emerging modes that we have? You know, the trottinettes, as we call them in France, two-wheelers, micromobility. Is there something that needs to be done on the educational level?
Certainly, when it's more than education, many countries are struggling with the safety of this kind of new mobility. So there is a problem of education, of enforcement, of infrastructure to make sure that we have safe infrastructure also for new mobility devices. There is also a need for better legal environment for speed management with geofencing enforcement. So yes, it's really an emerging issue in many cities, and well, ITF actually published 2 years ago a report on the safety of micromobility, which is still very timely, and this is an area where we are also going to include progressively in the IRTAD database more disaggregated data to have a bit more knowledge about the involvement of e-scooters, segways, or other kind of micromobility devices in road crashes.
That report is simply entitled Safe Micromobility, and if you go to the ITF website and Google it, you will find it immediately. It's an extremely good report. It is now 15:01, so we've very slightly overshot. There are more questions, but don't despair. You can just contact us, send us an email. We're very happy to enter into a dialogue with you and answer questions, develop ideas. That's why we do this. I will send you an email with the video recording of this session so you can share it with others who might be interested. And if you have colleagues who wanted to attend and couldn't attend, that's also for them. Thank you very much. Before we split, I will fire a question at you, 2 questions exactly, which you can answer with yes or no. I would be very pleased to have your response to this. One is, did you find this useful? And the second question is, would you be interested in a webinar, a dedicated webinar on these mattresses that we talked about so much? Something I'd like to do very much, and Vero too, I think, because they are a new tool that has lots of information that we can extract from them and do comparisons. So if you're interested in that, please click on yes. If not, that's okay. Say no, that's not a problem. But we would just like to know whether it's worth for us setting this up. And if you answer with yes, a majority, then we definitely do that. So thank you very much for your time. We look forward to seeing you next time. And it's been a pleasure having you here. And thanks again, above all, to Vero for her time and for her hard work on this report, which every year is a great joy to launch. Thank you. Have a good afternoon, a good late morning, wherever you are. Bye-bye. Can you still hear me, Vero?
Are we alone?